In almost every Western ever made, there is at least an underlying theme about what we obtain. Whether it's moving your family out west to gain a place to live, fighting for the ownership of a town, prospecting to gain your fortune, you get the idea. But this is a Western about what we lose. If you're not familiar with the game, Barbie Horse Adventure's Mystery Ride follows the character of Barbie and close friend Teresa as they attempt to track down the property taken away from them, namely Teresa's horse Lucky. Now, I should say this video will contain spoilers for the game, but hey, if you like to live dangerously, stick around. And also, if you like the video, please subscribe, it really means a lot. Barbie Horse Adventure 2 has some pretty overt themes throughout the story, but if you ask me, one of, if not the biggest and most important themes is about change. The characters are not who they thought they were, and this world is not what they thought it was. And this really struck me with how the locations are laid out. To me, it really seems like the story is anchored in the evolution of society. Let me explain. Chapter 1. We open with our gang of two out in the middle of the woods, hardly any kind of culture or people around save for the two of them. And as much as you're searching for Lucky, the core issues you're dealing with in this chapter is about learning to brandish your weapon, or basic horse maneuvering. It's very harrowing, but very primal. There may be a couple of you out there, but for the most part, you're just trying to survive. Eventually, Barbie is pushed deeper into the mountains, which brings us to our first taste of civilization. Chapter 2 takes us to the house of the goat herder, and this place is the perfect representation of early expansion in the West. It's simple and beautiful in a lot of ways. The kid here is generally pretty kind, and the one-road homestead is centered around one core idea of herding culture. Hell, even most of the missions here are pretty clear-cut and easily digestible. Talk to this kid here, put together a puzzle there, move to the next area. And to really drive this point home, this one-road homestead isn't even finished. At the end of the street, you could see a large amount of logs still blocking the path from expanding. I feel like this is where most people end up spending a good amount of their initial playthrough. I know I did. Barbie feels perfectly at home in this environment. But of course, this mystery cannot solve itself, so she is forced to push deeper into the mountains, into Chapter 3. Enter the Old Flour Mill. The Old Flour Mill is mildly bigger than the House of the Goat Herder, but the problems there are much more modern and nuanced. Barbie is attempting to move the wheel to get the technology of this area moving again. There's this underlying current of industry, technology, commerce, hierarchy. The Old Flour Mill really is the natural next step for a place like the House of the Goat Herder. The more people come and the longer they stay, the bigger and more complex everything becomes. Barbie immediately goes to work getting through this place, even rearranging the flour stored inside. Already we can see she's getting over her head with this quote-unquote civilized world she's being thrust into, but she keeps moving on. Which brings us to Chapter 4.
What a cute little town! Let's check out the stores for clues.
The cute little town. A town full of industry and new ideas. A town 100 times bigger and more complicated than somewhere like the Old Flour Mill. The moment I walked into this place as Barbie, everything didn't feel right. The way Barbie dresses, the way she talks, even the way she interacts with the people in the cute little town makes her stand out immediately. And the missions, oh my gosh, the missions. In a place like the goat herder's home, you might be moving baby goats into a new pen. But in the cute little town, you're going to florists and antique shops, rubbing elbows, discussing timepieces. The world is full of all new and fancy ideas in the cute little town. And the more time you spend in it as this root and toot and point and shoot and cowpoke, the more you just want to go back to a simpler time. Well, as if you got some kind of monkey's paw wish-granting thing, in Chapter 5, you are jerked out of the social meet and greets and thrown into the middle of the exact polar opposite. You are put back into the wilderness of an unconquered West at the Broken Bridge. This place is different. There's nowhere to go and nowhere to hide in this world. All of your freedom has been stripped away from you, and the man with the bridge makes the rules. I love this chapter because in every other chapter of the game, it's been building and building society, showing you the good and the bad that comes with the growth of the, quote, modern world. But then it immediately yanks you out of all that. It throws you into a world that is more brutal than anything else in the game. I know this is a stretch to say, but the fact that you only have one quest to go on really echoes that idea for me. It's not a complex, huge world for you to let your hair down and explore. In fact, in the mission here, you are literally being forced to handle a problem totally out of your control. It starts to make you appreciate places like the cute little town. Even if you didn't fit in there, hell, it's better than not having any control at all. Well, it just so happens that wish is granted too. But you can't really ever go back to where you were, can you? Chapter 6. The final core chapter. Barbie gets back on her horse and rides back on the trail and is greeted with a more grim world than the one she left. There are a couple houses in this area you could go explore, but this is not the same world you remember. It's darker. The people are strange, and at this point, Barbie doesn't know where she belongs. She doesn't want any part of this world, and the world doesn't seem to want her either. This place is corrupted by societal pleasantries, wickedness, corruption. It's a world where the good guys can't even win without bending their morals to make a difference. All the missions involving politics or society all feel like a lost cause. This is why I love how the main game ends. No guns, no technology, just a mano-y-mano logic puzzle. It's so damn poetic. The most animal instinct that humans have is survival of the fittest. And even though the world keeps getting smaller and smaller as societies and technologies get more and more complex, people never change. They just show you who they were the whole time. And as much as we'd like to go back to how things were, you can't. There's nothing to go back to. Society and culture will always be growing and changing, but you can't keep running. Sometimes you have to stand still.